Hello, everybody. Welcome back, welcome back. I hope everyone had an awesome afternoon, meeting other folks, connecting, hopefully getting some good ideas going, reflecting on that awesome set of conversations we had earlier this morning. I am so excited for this one. And so I want to, without further ado, welcome Vitalik Buterin, one of the co-founders of Ethereum. Welcome, Vitalik. Hey, Vitalik, you're on the big screen now.
Oh, that's amazing. I thought it was on. I thought it was on like your phone or something.
No, you are sitting in a beautiful theater with 400 of the folks who've been building Base over the last year, from the Base core team, from Coinbase, and from all of the incredible teams around the ecosystem who's made Base what it is. So they're super excited to be here. And I want to start there. You've been building on Ethereum for a long time, and you're now sitting in front of, the 400 people who I think are probably going to have the most influence over where Base goes over the next few years. I'm curious, what advice do you have for them? What thoughts do you have for them? What's top of mind?
So I think if we think about like the big picture of where Ethereum is at right now, a couple of points come to mind, right? So one of the big points is that we're, as an ecosystem, making this big transition from making mostly these small-scale applications that are kind of clunky, that are basically demos, and we kind of know that they're demos, but we're mostly just enjoying them as a small community, to things that actually, if they succeed, really can be adopted by tens of millions of people, right? And I think the technology is getting there for that to actually be possible, and the scalability is getting there, quality of UX is getting there, many things are getting there. And I think, for this reason, the kind of center of attention of the Ethereum ecosystem, I think, is shifting, and it's not just about L1, but it's also about what actually happens at the L2 space and the application space. And I think that's in a significant part of that is going to already is and is going to be you guys. So I think the big goal to try to, I think, strive for, right, is to try to make applications that are easy and friendly enough for regular people to use, but that at the same time, satisfy all of the core values of why we're in the space in the first place, right? So we want applications that are really friendly to people coming into crypto at the first time. At the same time, we absolutely do not want applications that lead to a crypto world where we have decentralized infrastructure theoretically underneath, but absolutely everyone's interacting with the thing through a Google account. So I think there's this really challenging needle to thread, right, in trying to get both of those at the same time. And the solution to that, I think, is definitely going to be complicated and tricky, right? I think the right thing for someone downloading their very first crypto application is not at all going to be the same as the right thing for someone who's already juggling 10 different things and has half of their money in stable coins or whatever else, right? And if you want something that works for one and works for the other, and gives people a good opportunity to transition from being one to another. Another big thing is continuing to work on scalability, right? Because I think one of the really nice things about the Ethereum layer 1, layer 2 approach is that the fact that the layer 1 is there as this backstop, and it provides this secure backbone, and it's something that we try hard to maintain, try hard to keep secure, where it already is very decentralized and is becoming more so. That gives a lot more freedom for layer twos to like really focus hard on scale and like low latency and user experience and those kinds of things, right? And so I think it's amazing that I know, parts of the base team have already started like thinking about like how do we really crank up the like millions of gas per second, hopefully eventually billions of gas per second that the chain can support, and I think that's amazing work, and it would be amazing to see more of it. So I think the place where you guys are really unique, right, is that there is both the kind of technical talents to really work on those things, and at the same time there's the connections, experience, all of these things to really actually get close to the user and like actually figure out like, what are the things that really can bring a much wider level of appeal. So I think big opportunity, and I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do with it.
I love it. And when we you didn't see the keynote this morning, but I feel like those were the two big themes. One was like, how do we
Mm,
make this thing scale? And then the other was like, how do we just get people to build things that people want with incredibly easy to use experiences? And so having you echo that, I mean, I think it's just really hammering home. This is where we are,
mm,
everyone. Like we need to keep
mm,
scaling. We need to keep building those great apps. I want to change the
mm,
subject a little bit. Um,
mm,
with Coinbase coming in, Coinbase obviously is a big public company, and there's starting to be more public companies who are interested in Ethereum. I'm curious,
mm,
how do you think about public companies and legacy institutions starting
mm,
to participate in Ethereum? What do you think the opportunities
mm,
are? What do you think the risks are? Yeah, how are you thinking that high level
mm,
space?
mm. Yeah, I mean, I think the role of companies, especially like Coinbase, is just you're definitely going to be even more important over the next few years, right? Because I think the thing that Coinbase has done really well is just like built up access to that very large pool of users, and I think the next step is basically like not just going wider but going deeper, right? Like there's a whole bunch of users that are buying and holding coins, and the big question is like, well, what are the other things that we can help those large tens of millions of users start to do, right? So I think there's a very very unique role there in I think being close to users is one part, and like also being close to other institutions that are close to users, right? So it could include Web2 tech companies, like it could include payments companies, all kinds of different groups, right? And so I think what we want to do is try to take advantage of those relationships, take advantage of that expertise there, and I think ideally even participate in the process of building some of those applications.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that's exactly what Coinbase is doing. And my hope is that the kind of steps that we're taking and the precedent that we're setting is going to
Mm,
help other businesses follow suit. But there's also a lot of complexity in what we're doing. Particularly with
mhm,
Base, we're taking a team inside of a public company and we're incubating
mm,
a decentralized blockchain that's getting progressively decentralized over time. I'm curious, as Base and the core team and builders on Base navigate this transition from, being stage 0 to stage 1, stage 2, less decentralized to more decentralized, do you have any advice for us and for the
mm,
builders on top of us about
mhm,
how we should keep pushing for decentralization, the risks that, kind of pose in
mhm,
front of us, and kind of like this
mhm,
general space of transitioning from
mhm, mhm.
centralized to decentralized?
Yeah. So I think there's two big parts of that that I focus on, right? One is, as you mentioned, the base infrastructure, right? No pun intended. And the fact that OP Stack is on stage one and already is very impressive. Actually, yeah, do you know like what are the timelines for base kind of inheriting that? I'm actually curious.
Yeah,
Um,
so we just launched fault proofs on testnet last week, and we're going to be on stage
mhm.
1 with the Security Council and fault proofs live on mainnet in the next few months, definitely before the end of the year.
Okay, that's Amazing. And then from there,
We're
continuing
fired up
to
about it. It's awesome.
yeah, I mean, continuing to work on getting to stage two,
Yeah.
and I think if we want I mean, if we want stage two to be a success, I think we want I mean, in the long term, I think like the way that I'm seeing the kind of as technology tends to infinity, sort of like final end game of this is basically that we'll have much better formal verification tools, and like LLMs will probably help us write proofs, and at some point we'll actually get to the point where we can like actually verify that these things have literally zero bugs, right? But that's like mid to long term. I think short term, you want multiple proving systems that are highly independent of each other, right? And I think that's the safest way to get stage two. And I mean, I know optimism people have been doing good work on both ZK, OP proof systems. I mean, Tycho has had interesting ideas of like throwing trusted hardware in there just like as a one of n. So the more you can have like these, like very heterogeneous things where if they fail, they won't fail at the same time for the same reason. Like that's probably the next step to really get people comfortable going up to stage two. So I mean, any kind of help that you guys can give, and like either the short term there of multi-provers, or the long term, right, and participating in our formal verification efforts. Mm, or like even like starting your own formal verification effort, right? So a lot of you guys are in the valley, like less than 50 kilometers away from all the cool AI people. So like maybe there's something there. And then the other side of this is like decentralization and security closer to the user, right? So this is the thing that I mentioned a few minutes ago, and like this is the thing that I talk about when I talk about account abstraction, right? Basically, like what is the like it feels obvious that the right thing that to control a user's account is a multisig, but then the big question is like what the members of the multisig are, right? Because like if you have like five low quality members, and then it's like individuals and half of them themselves like lose their keys in a year, then that's like a big problem, right? And so like the right solutions are going to be different for different people, and like finding something that threads that needle of being like both good for new users and good for advanced users, and like friendly to a fully self-sovereign approach for individuals that want to be paranoid, open to like any combination in between, open to people jumping from like one to the other. Also, a lot of like user experience pieces. So there's like minor things like a lot of people are building apps that work both on mobile and on desktop, and a lot of the time, like when people give up on the more decentralized authentication approaches, and like switch to centralized, like at least I found that the whole like mobile desktop like syncing piece surprisingly often ends up being the killer, right? So really, yeah, like thinking through that question, right? Like basically, yeah, if you like set yourself the problem that you have some kind of app, and you want that app to be accessible on mobile, you want that app to be accessible on desktop, you want that app to be accessible through goggles, 10 years later through a hopefully open source brain computer interface, and then the question is like how do like what is the sort of like flow of technical authority, right? Like where do the account keys live, how do they approve, how do they de-approve, and like what's a version of that that like fits all the different goals. So I think that aspect of things is going to be super important too.
Yeah, well, I'll just plus one both of those, and just to kind of reflect the impact that I think you've already started to have on Base. I think you came out maybe like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and you said, we need to start changing the definition of stages at the end of this year and not taking stage 0 seriously, like not calling them rollups. And for us as a team, that was a huge rallying cry. It was like, we now have to get to stage 1 before the end of the year, because there's going to be increasing pressure on us to make sure that we're upholding that decentralization. So that was one big place that I think we're already seeing that kind of translate to impact. The other place is, you probably don't remember this, but at DevCon, maybe 2 years ago, you and I had a brief conversation, and I said, okay, we've been working on 4844, and we're making really good progress on that. What do you want us to work on next? And you said, well, I think the next most important thing is account abstraction and 4337. And that then started what has become about a year and a half of work around bringing the smart wallet to market with Coinbase, starting to work with Keyspace, which is built off of the design that you did. I'm curious about two things. One is kind of how do you see account abstraction and smart wallets maturing over the next couple years, and what do you think the biggest kind of challenges are that lay there? And then two, is there something else? Like, it was 4844 the first time we talked, and then the next time it was 4337. If you could like wave your magic wand and be like, direct the Base team and the Coinbase machine at like solving or contributing to this problem, what would that next thing be?
Okay. I think I actually have a good answer to sort of both at the same time, and that is like much better cross layer 2 interoperability, right? Because I think if you think about like what are the biggest pieces in account abstraction that are currently not quite solved, that are not, I mean, the stuff about enabling more different kinds of guardians that I already talked about. I think having a good experience cross-chain is probably the biggest part, right? Like basically, we want the Ethereum world, which includes the layer 2s, to feel like Ethereum and to not feel like 34 different blockchains. And right now, like we don't have that yet, right? Like I'm sure some of you saw the tweet I made a couple of weeks ago where I just showed a screenshot of depositing coins into Polymarket, right? And it's like, you have to like here is an address, and then you have to make sure that you're on Polygon. And no, Polygon and Polygon ZKVM are totally different. Come on, they're just as different as Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan, which are somehow also different. And like if you say, and then if you're on the wrong one, you might lose your money. And then if you don't have coins on Polygon yet, you have to know that you're supposed to do this totally separate operation, which is called bridging. And then you move and then that's like centralized right now. You move to Polygon, and then you like move it over, right? So, I mean, I actually, like lost $100 on that a while back. So, fortunately, I start small before going big on the deposits, right? But that's that's the thing that we don't want Ethereum to look like, right? And the thing that we want is so the two standards that I've been like trying to push are, one is ERC 3770, which is like cross-chain addresses. Basically, the address just becomes, like network colon 0x whatever. And so you just have this one object that represents all of the information of like, if he wants to pay me or if he wants to delegate authority to me, like, what do you have to do? And that might include cross-chaining. So that's one piece. And then ERC 7683 is basically an open standard for making cross-chain orders. So, like if you wants to, like move from coins from Polygon to Base, then on Polygon you would publish the CRC 7683 transaction that basically sends your coins on Polygon into a lockbox. And then that lockbox is claimable by someone who in the future can prove to you that they actually sent the coins to the place that you wanted on the Base side, right? And there's like some fancy, like batching, Merkle proving, and different things that makes that process efficient, right? So those are like the two standards. And then like on the wallet level, right, like you should be able to just take an ERC 3770 address, paste it into a wallet's to field. And then it doesn't matter like if you're on the same network, or if you're, like let's say within the Optimism superchain, or if you're like going between like Base and Polygon, or even Base and L1, like you should be able to just click send and it works, right? So like I would love to see that kind of like collaborative cross ecosystem standardization work starting to happen. So That's like that whole cross-chain like space and like basically moving like layer two scaling from theory to practice, I think is the next big thing to focus on.
I love that, and heard loud and clear. Uh, I think we now have our mandate, and it's a good thing because it already lines up with the team, what the team is working on. I think increasingly we're seeing that, and this has been true for Base from the beginning. One of our values has been this idea of Base is a bridge, not an island. We don't want to put people on Base and have them isolated there. We want to onboard people to Base because we think we're going to be an important onboarding channel, but then we want to enable them to go everywhere else. And so now we've onboarded millions of people onto Base, but they're seeing, oh, there's all these other things I can do on chain. Some of them are on Base, but a lot of them are elsewhere. And building the infrastructure and then integrating that infrastructure into wallet experiences like Coinbase and others so that they can just go do that with maybe their assets on Base, but then they can go do the thing that they want wherever they want to, I think is incredibly important, and it's going to be a top priority for us. So thanks for the feedback, and we're going to keep working on it. One last question, and then we'll let you go. What excites you about Base specifically? There's a lot of L2s out there. What gets you fired up about Base? What makes you nervous? What should we be thinking about in the year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is simple, right? It's the intersection of high quality technical talent and like really being up close and there with the users. And I think like those are the two advantages that you guys really wants to press on.
I love it. Well, we're going to keep pressing on him. Vitalik, thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody, thanks for staying here.
Thank you.
So excited to keep building Ethereum with you. We like to say Base is Ethereum, and we're so grateful for the foundation that you've laid, and we're so proud to be building alongside you. So thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Okay.